Hi! So the goal of this video is to talk about converting fractions, decimals, and percents. So here we have the fraction 1/2 represented as a decimal, 0.5 or 5/10 represented as a percent, 50%. All of these numbers represent part of a whole, just in different ways. So let's take a look at how we do this. First, in reviewing percents, percents represent parts of numbers in a very particular way. They represent numbers out of 100. So a percent is always representative of whatever number you see out of a total of 100. 62% means 62 out of 100, which I should actually simplify because I want my fractions in simplest form. Both of these are even, so I'm going to get 31 out of 50. So 62% as a fraction is 31/50. All right, so your job will be that if you get a fraction, you'll need to be able to demonstrate that you are able to represent that number as a decimal and as a percent. One method that I'm going to show you is the fraction to decimal to percent method. There are other methods, but this is the one we're going to focus on in this video. So, we've already worked on turning fractions to decimals by dividing. So, if I divide 2 by 5, I'm going to see right away that it is going to be 0.4. So my decimal is 0.4 or 4/10. Now, to get from a decimal to a percent, because a percent is a number out of 100, what we're going to do is multiply 0.4 by 100. But there's a shortcut in doing that. What you do is you take the decimal point and you move it back 2 places. If I move it back here, I need to annex a 0 or add a 0 to the end. So 0.4 is the same as 0.40, but as a percent, it would be 40%. 2/5, 4/10 or 40/100 is the same as 40%. So let's look at what we just did. To turn a fraction to a decimal, we start by dividing the numerator by the denominator. Then, once we have our decimal, to turn our decimal to a percent, we move the decimal right 2 places. Again, technically we're multiplying by 100, but instead of working out a multiplication problem, we just move the decimal right 2 places. I always remember that because I have 2 zeros in 100, so I go to the right 2 places. Let's take a look at some practice problems, and I'd like you to put these on your guide. Here, instead of just a fraction, I have a mixed number. So that means I have one whole and a part of a number, 1 5/7. So I'm going to start by putting 1 and something. I've got one whole and a part, so I need to figure out what that part is. So 5 divided by 7, bring my decimal point up. I know 7 times 7 is 49, and that's going to get me to my closest product. I subtract and I'm left with 1. Bring my 0 down, I get 1/7. 1 times 7 is 7, with a remainder of 3. Now remember, I want you to go 3 places past the decimal so you can round to the nearest hundredths place. So this is either going to be 0.71 or 0.72. It depends on what I end up with here. I know that I can get 4 sevens out of 30 because 4 times 7 is 28. Now, because this is a 4, I know my 0.71 will stay 0.71 instead of going to 0.72. So my decimal is 1 71/100. Now, to get from a fraction to a decimal to a percent, my very last step is to simply move the decimal point. So I have my decimal point here. To multiply by 100, I just simply move it 2 places over. Since I don't need to add a 0, my percent is simply 171%. That means I have more than the total. If it's over 100%, I have more than the whole. 1 5/7 is the same as 1.71, and that is the same as 171%. We can also work backwards. If I am given a percent, I can figure out what the fraction is or what the decimal is. So if the percent is 32, to get the decimal, I'm simply going to move to the left 2 instead of the right. If I don't see a decimal point in a number, it's always at the end. If I go back 1, 2, my decimal will be 32 hundredths. That makes sense because a percent is always out of 100, so 32 out of 100. Then, to write my fraction, remember, in going from a decimal to a fraction, we simply write the number over a 1, and then however many zeros places would be the number of zeros. So 32 over 100. Again, that makes sense because 32% is a number over 100, so 32 over 100. Don't forget though, I need to simplify this. And I know that I can divide both of these by 4. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 8/25 is the same as 0.32, which is the same as 32%. Remember that whatever number you're given, whether it's in a decimal format, percent, or fraction, using these simple steps, I can convert. We'll do one more. Let's say I'm given the decimal 8. Well, to get that into a percent, I simply go 1, 2 to the right. So I would have to tack on a 0. That would be 80%. Because I know that 80% is a number out of 100, I could write 80 over 100. Or I could take a look at my decimal and I could say, well, my numerator's 8. It's 1 place, so it's a 1 0, 1 with 1 0. And then I would simplify that by dividing by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 4/5 is the same as 80%, or 8/10. We'll continue to practice this in class. Make sure that you have all of your problems on your guide.